downgraded your video quality, so I know we're live.
Okay. All right, everybody. Hey, this is Frederick Jones, founder and publisher of Saturday AM, the world's most diverse digitally shonen manga anthology. And of course, you guys have been following us for a while. You know that we like to do these interviews occasionally with people who are helping to lead the charge with more diverse, helping create more diverse content, helping more diverse creators find their voice in the world. And so we're really excited to be interviewing today the head of the company Plasq, Plasq, and they're the makers of several software that you guys have probably used at some point, depending on how young you are or how much you're engaged in doing digital support for your comics creations. But the product that we are really head over heels about is called Comic Draw. You've probably heard us talking about it quite a bit over the last year. And we're really happy to have the founder of the company, Robert Grant, with us today. Robert, hello.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's great. And Robert, of course, you came to us all the way from the UK. So I know that you're probably getting ready for dinner time there. No. Right. Robert is as American as you kids. And most of you guys aren't even American. I was looking at our stats the other day, Robert. We had a lot of viewers from Germany and Thailand, and I was like, wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So again, folks, we're gonna if you guys have watched the videos before, you know that this is really low tech. Although surprisingly, you guys view the hell out of these videos, so I want to thank you for that. The company's been around for just a little under 5 years, we try to use all sorts of technology that is available to us at the lowest scale possible. I've tried to construct this company to operate as agile as possible, and it's given us some amazing opportunities. But obviously, we don't have the slick supersets of IGN.com and things of that nature. But nonetheless, these videos have done really well, and want to thank you for that. Because one of the things we try to do at the videos is have real discussions with people that you should be hearing from as it relates to your opportunities in creating comics or exploring your own creative opportunities for your future. And so again, we're really excited to have Robert here. I've had the real pleasure to get to know Robert over the last year. And this is a really interesting person to speak with because he's looking at the industry from a different perspective. So let's start out first with Robert, just kind of explain to people a little bit about what Plasq, the company, is do as it relates to a lot of upcoming creators.
Okay, so Plasq, we're a small independent software developer. Been around for about, 15 years now, I guess. We started out back in the early aughts, working on Mac OS X software, as it was called back then. Apple had just welcomed Steve Jobs back, and he really sort of rebooted Apple with the next step underpinnings, and suddenly there was a great lack of software for the Mac OS X, the new OS. They had the classic mode for running the classic apps, but there really wasn't a lot of new apps taking advantage of all the new things that the OS offered. So it seemed like a great opportunity for some new software developers to step in and start creating some fun apps. So Comic Life, that app is our sort of a breakthrough app, I guess, from way back when, and it really got a lot of attention, which was great for us as a sort of a young aspiring software developer. Apple plucked it out of the crowd. Not that there was much of a crowd back then, but the small crowd of new software developers. And for a while we were bundled on Macs, which was a tremendous honor and a great opportunity for us to sort of grow our user base and our brand as well. And actually, the funny thing is that more people know us for Comic Life than for Plasq. I mean, we're really the Comic Life company rather than Plasq company. Anyway, so but based on building from that, we got very popular in schools. We got very popular. Actually, a thing that we didn't expect at all was actually for people like Frederick here, who adopted Comic Life as a lettering app. for
let's
their
stop
comics.
for a second and talk about
yeah.
comic life, because I think people may not know the full breadth of what you guys do. So again, you started back, as you said, 15 years ago, back before. So again, for a lot of our viewers who are younger, 15 years ago, some of you guys probably didn't exist. You were zygotes, possibly. But let's be clear about what 15, if that,
right.
Your parents were graduating high school. But no, I mean, but really, if we look at these things in perspective, though, 15 years ago, there was no iPhone, there was no iPad. So we're talking before the mobile technology revolution. We're talking
this is back in the iPod was the state of the art.
Right.
And with a click wheel.
Right. That's right. Because that was 2002, right? 2001, 2002.
It came out in 2001, and and quickly iterated from there. But that original iPod, I mean, it was a brick. I mean, it was heavy and kind of large and kind of clunky with a tiny screen. But we were blown away by that thing. It was so incredible, because we had all been fighting with CD, portable CD drives that skipped, and cassette players and stuff. And so this thing that didn't skip and just had 1,000 songs in your pocket, or whatever, it was unbelievable. It was so cool.
So the iPod itself, though, that had nothing in terms of inspiring you to make what became Comic Life.
No. So
developer, right? So this was, again, desktop. You were developing for Mac.
Yeah. There was no real app development platform for the iPod originally.
That's right.
It was a closed system that Apple did a few sort of little game apps and things for, but they didn't open it up as a platform at all. So as far as inspiration, so Comic Life was designed to be photo comic software. So you take digital photos and add balloons, captions, lettering, and make your own comic stories using your own photos. And the actual original inspiration for the app was my daughter, who had been struggling to make like home movies with her friends, where they would act out some dramatic story and video it, because we had digital videotape, so it was easy to just, have some fun, and but they would spend a whole afternoon, and it would be an exercise in utter frustration, as nobody remembered their lines, nobody remembered their things. So and this was just when it's funny, because we actually had digital camera, video cameras, before we had good quality digital still cameras. And that's kind of a weird, because you would think that still cameras would be easier to make than video cameras, but actually getting the quality up was harder than it seemed, to get all the image sensing and stuff like that. So anyway, but just around then, in about 2003, 2004, I guess it was, digital cameras were becoming popular and good enough that you could actually take decent photos and things like that. Still pretty low res compared to today. I mean, the megapixels are just insane. These are like 1, maybe 2 megapixel cameras. Yeah,
dude, over literally in my office here, I've got I was going through it the other day before I went to that trip to Portland, and found old digital cameras. We're talking like very, very early, maybe again, it was the state of the art was having 2 megapixels.
Yeah. So anyway, so I had this idea of hey, if she took digital photos, then she could make comics, so because nobody would have to remember any script. They would just have to stand in a pose for a for a picture to be taken, and then afterwards she could assemble it into some fun story or something like that. And so she had a lot of fun doing that, and that was sort of the inspiration. And I was kind of looking around for an app, that was sort of in the iMovie kind of thing of do something fun with digital media. And I think that's really what Apple latched onto, was this is another, they had the whole kids, this is a long time ago, but they had the whole digital hub strategy of wanting all your digital content to be on your Mac. And so being able to do something with that digital content in a creative way really was kind of excited them, and that was great. So anyway, but because we did some work on making our balloons and lettering kind of capable, and also bundling fonts and things like that. That's when it started to grow in the digital comics creative world, and we actually have, you know, artists who are, you know, indie artists or indie studios or indie publishers that don't have a big budget to, say, farm out the lettering to third parties, who would in those days and probably even today use complicated tools like Photoshop or Illustrator to do the lettering, because that was really how you had to do it back then. But that's a really slow and skilled job, fraught with frustration.
No question. So let me take a moment here to make sure I frame this for some of our for people watching this. So back then, and as Robert said, you know, so essentially, if you were an independent creator creating comics, you had two ways to do it. And if you guys have watched my videos, you know I've talked about this in the past. You know, when you're my age, and Robert's older than me. You get to be my age, you know, then you know, when we were kids, to create comics meant you had to do a couple of things, right? Number one, like, you know, you come up with an idea, and everyone's got an idea. Then you had to get someone to draw it. So if you weren't the artist, you had to get someone to draw it. And I always give this funny story about how, you know, you could pay them in, you know, video game trades, comic trades, things like that, or pizza. But they had one of those three things, right? The problem was that if you got them to do it, of course, then you had to hope that they actually did it, completed it, you know, this, that, and the other. The second thing is that then actually print the comic, because there was no digital. So to print the comic, you then had to go to the route of going to a traditional printer. And I can tell you right now, they took no trade-ins, they took no friendship, they took no pizza. They only took cash. So you had to give them cash.
Right.
So what we're talking about is, again, as a creative person back then, you had to necessarily, you know, you always have to believe in yourself, but you had to internalize that belief, but you had to involve many other people to assist you in creating a physical product at every level, whether it was from the creativity side to the production side, print side, things of that nature, and then ultimately distribution side. On the production side, what some people try to do to skimp is they draw, and many of you have done this, so you guys know I'm talking to some of you. You would draw the speech bubbles. You would actually draw the speech bubbles yourself. And the problem with that is, and Robert and I've talked about this, but one of the things that's so frustrating for up-and-coming artists is that you take an artist who's got maybe a decent idea, maybe a great title, maybe a great story, or they're decent storytellers. Maybe it's a simple idea, but they're a really good storyteller. They know how to make it work. And they've got beautiful artwork. But because they don't know how to create speech bubbles, they just kind of draw it themselves. And so it looks, you know, the words end up getting squished, or, you know, the words kind of taper off a little bit because they got to try to squeeze it into the bubble because they thought the bubble was big enough. But when they, you know, finally sat down and put the script in there, the bubble's not big enough. If they had to redo the bubble, they have to change the artwork around. Means they have to do less, you know, pasting and pulling out of old stuff and you know, putting another piece of artwork on top of it. So it's laborious, laborious. I mean, this was not fun stuff. So, you know, Robert creates Comic Life, and what's fascinating about Comic Life was that, as you know, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around how you went from your daughter trying to film videos to the comic book thing. But then the fact that there is, like, you know, as Robert said, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm remembering what I just talked about how difficult comic production was for an independent creator. And I'm saying, you know, I want my stuff to, so I see this app, and this is my next question, Robert, is, you know, I look at that and I see the fact that you've got these speech bubbles. You can move the speech bubbles around, so it's not like a static thing. It's alive. You can move the lines. You can, you know, shift the lines, because obviously you want to make it fit within the artwork. You don't want to cover too much artwork. So if you want to make the line loop around, you can make it thin, fat, all these various things. You got lots of fonts. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing it. At the time I saw it, it was on desktop. And so I was going to get it for desktop. It was during the Snow Leopard era of Mac, which is, let's say, 2006 or so. And I'm looking at it thinking, okay, well, this is great. $30. And I'm thinking $30 for a one-time payment versus what Robert just talked about. The alternative is that you had to be skilled at Photoshop. And if you're skilled in Photoshop, you're talking that's a, what was that, Robert? What was that back in the day? Like, was it like $600? Yeah, $600, right? Exactly. Yeah. Or if you're Raymond Brown, one of our partners, then you got the bootleg version from Cousin. And that was like, you know, that thing was broken all over the place. But nonetheless, you know, you still had to, even then you had to pay like, you know, $50, $60, $70, $100 for a bootleg version. So yeah, so what did you launch the price of this with? What do you remember what the original price for it was?
Yep, $30, $29.95.
So it stayed $30 for a while.
It stayed $30 forever. It's still $30.
So you know, and just to compare it, and the reason you'll see why I'm setting this up this way, because we're going to get to Comic Draw eventually. But so to put this in perspective, folks, again, you pay a comic book artist to draw your pages and so forth if you're fortunate, or if you get, you know, someone who wants to do it for pizza, friendship, whatever. You know, you're talking that could be anywhere in the hundreds to thousands of dollars to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on who you're working with, to produce the artwork of the comic. They may not letter the comic. That may not be something that they. That's what I was getting ready to say. Right? Yeah, that's right. Like that's a whole different strategy.
I'm an artist. I'm not a letterer.
Exactly. So if they choose to do that, then they're going to. Then you're talking the software, which back then, as Robert indicated, was $600. You could have cheated a little bit, maybe got it for a little cheaper. Today, even if you get the Adobe Suite, which they've now got a cloud-based, we're still talking. It's like what, $30, $40 a month?
Yeah.
Right. So this is all that's going into this, and he's got this application which allows you to take your comic art, scan it directly into the computer, and work with it completely without any issues whatsoever. And then you can put the speech bubbles on it, and it was glorious. For those of us who are trying to produce independent comics, it was a steal. It was like $30, and I can use it forever. Perfect. So that was really extraordinary. When you launched it at $30, did you guys immediately see the success with it across the board, or did you start seeing the school thing first?
Well, I mean, the thing that just happened pretty much right out of the gate. I mean, yes, we had great excitement, but the Apple bundling deal just sort of, it was hard to sell it when it's coming for free with Macs. But for people who had already bought a Mac, then they could get it. But that sort of drowned out because Apple was sort of growing spectacularly then. I mean, their year-on-year sales were just increasing, exponentially almost. So that was great. And actually, we originally designed it to be consumer software. It's something like iMovie. I mean, back in the day, you had to buy iLife as a suite. It didn't come bundled with your Mac. It was a Well, actually, no, it came bundled. If you bought a New York Mac, you got the iLife suite. But if you wanted to get it and you had an older Mac, you had to buy it in a box for like $99 or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. The whole economics of software has changed dramatically from then to now. But yeah, we weren't looking at it as software for pros or people integrating it into a workflow of to get their comics done. It was that was all kind of a an unknown to us. I mean, we were just thinking this was a fun, more of a gimmick app, kind of, like a, this is just something fun to do, but not actually something that helps people get their jobs done. Actually, is a useful tool in your toolbox. It's not a tool. It's a toy. It's not a tool. It's a toy. But it became a tool. So that was kind of nice.
So ever since you ever contacted any of the companies, any of the members was interested in Draw?
I'm sorry, you really broke up there on that.
Oh, I said, so you contacted any of the companies? Like, did any of them say, hey, this comic product can save us lots of money?
I can't say we did. No. It's sort of. I mean, I guess. I mean, there are. There are compromises to make with the software. It's not. I mean, there's no compromise with Photoshop or Illustrator. You can get exactly what you want. You have to put the effort in, but there is pretty much no limit to your options. And there are some limitations too. It's like we're covering sort of 90% of the use cases, and so it's easy. But if you want to push it that extra 10%, you're going to be like, I've got to get the vectors out and take it into Photoshop and tweak it to this, you know, nth degree or something like that. So I think it really suits the indie market. I don't think it would suit, say, the DC, Marvel, you know, production studios. So, you know, people working at that level, they have got the dollars to say, we need the fine control of Photoshop or Illustrator or hand lettered or whatever, you know. I don't know. So
okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. I was curious. I mean, so when you created this product, you had this growth coming from Apple, and then you were seeing tremendous growth on the school side. You had independent creators like me who were using it. So you were looking at it operating on 3 different fronts. The business started to grow around that. Any point that you decide, I mean, at what point then led you to think, okay, I guess my question is, if the comic companies didn't contact you and you saw a handful, smattering of independent companies approaching you, when did you start to get the sense of, okay, you know, we can make this like a total comic book production app?
Well, it was the iPad Pro that when that came out. That kind of made us think, well, hell, you know, we can build the drawing engine. We have the lettering system. We now have the device, the sort of dream device to run it on, because it has a great big screen. It has a high resolution stylus. Now it just needs software to bring it all together. So that was, you know, because we thought about, oh, we could do something on the desktop, but that does require a large investment in, you know, hardware. You need a separate tablet. You know, yeah, tablet. Is that the right word? What am I thinking of? What the, you know, one of these things.
Yeah, it's Canvas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tablet, isn't it? I'm now confused. Like, but I think iPad's a tablet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah. The Wacom tablet is the Wacom tablet. Yeah, that's the kind of original data. Yeah.
I'm suddenly having this like, is that what this is?
Well, you were falling into the Steve Jobs zone of like trying to think like, you know, because Apple has, you know, Apple takes over a category and then they take the name that already existed, but they're like, but we own it. Like it didn't exist before us, you know. Watches, smartwatches didn't exist before the Apple Watch. So right. But yeah. Yeah. No, I got you. Okay.
So it just seemed like, and there's a learning curve to using a tablet like that where you're looking one way and your hand is somewhere else. And I've tried it, you know, and it's there's some cognitive dissonance going on there, because you're trying to stroke, you know, down here, and that's why so many people use those beautiful, though extremely expensive, Cintiq tablets, where you actually have the screen and your software, because now you're looking at it, and your pen is making the marks right in front of your face, and you're happy. You know, suddenly it all comes back together, because obviously this separate tablet with a screen thing is not the ideal situation. It's fine. I think it's fine if you're using it as an interface to software to sort of drag things around. You know, instead of a mouse, basically using it in a mouse-like way, but it's not a mouse, you know, and some people might prefer that for, you know, interacting. But for actual drawing, I think it's a very so anyway. So there was, you know, we could do the software. It's expensive. It's not a pleasant way to draw. So we kind of shelved that. And
I wouldn't say that's fair. I mean, I think you and I have talked about this. It depends on the age.
It does, but it definitely is a learning curve, and it's a hurdle.
I don't discount that, but you would admit, I think you would agree that the iPhone and its implementation of the touchpad completely, or touch ID, I mean touch keyboard
screen,
right, just completely transformed. But it was a learning curve. Like, it was so bizarre. And
right,
I'm sure you were a Palm user. I was a Palm user, and so. You know, I mean, it wasn't like it was new, but it was still so bizarre to have that be the exclusive input. Now it's like second nature, but like that first year was like such a real struggle to try to become adept to that.
But I think, you know, what was delightful about the iPad Pro was this beautiful big screen, high resolution, and then this beautiful, though somewhat, I would say, feature limited pencil. I mean, you know, the fact that I can't turn that thing around and use the other end as an eraser drives me crazy. Or the fact that there isn't at least one button on that thing to just be able to switch into another mode. You know, like, yeah, it's lovely, Apple, but it's once again, no, you took away a couple of useful features to make it look clean. And, you know, thanks, you know. I mean, they have all this pressure sensitive technology. Why can't I just squeeze the pen a little bit and some new mode is activated or something? I don't know. Anyway, but as a core combo, I mean, that pencil and the iPad Pro, what a beautiful, you know, combination. Now, of course, it wasn't cheap. You know, once you added the iPad Pro, and the original one was like 12.9 inch.
That's right.
And so I think it was around $1,000. So yeah, it was not not cheap. And then the pencil was $150 on top of that. So so this was, it wasn't you know, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn good. And so so that was the inspiration to say, you know, that was the final piece to say, okay, we could take our lettering, produce some you know, drawing features, and try and build a one-stop app for digital comics production on an iPad.
And did you, how long before the Apple iPad launched? What was it, 2010?
2010, yeah. Right,
and then but the Comic Draw just came out in 2017, 16?
Oh, well, 2017. Sorry. iPad originally came out in 2010. Yeah. Right. The iPad Pro came out in 2016, a couple of years ago.
Fair enough. Right. That's right. That's right.
And so because we talked about it, you know, using just the simple style and the third party pressure sensitive styluses, you know, the Donut and the Wacom ones, like that. And you know, we do support those, so you can actually use the app on a non-iPad Pro or non, you know, pencil compatible device. But but definitely you know, the problem is on those devices is that the touch resolution is very, very coarse. You know, they are trying all kinds of tricks, and we also have to do all kinds of tricks to try and improve the accuracy of the touch point. But it's designed for fingers. It's not designed for, you know, precision devices, which was what was the shift with the iPad Pro, was that Apple actually came up with a much finer resolution position sensing system that allowed the fine control that the pencil has.
So I've got some questions here. By the way, I know folks are, if you have questions, you can, those of you who follow us on our social media, you can hit us on our social media accounts and put stuff there. I know that I believe I did not turn on the chat feature here. Sometimes we get jar-headed kids, and you guys have heard Uncle Freddie rant about that. So so you're
curating the questions, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, at this point, y'all have them come through on our social media. So if you have questions, folks, you can contact us via our Facebook fan page, which is facebook.com/Saturday AM. You can send a tweet to us at at Saturday_AM. And of course, if you're part of our March Madness group, it has a very special group inside of Facebook. Those of you know, of course, you can send us a note there. I'm monitoring the various windows, and we'll address comments there. So, so to that point, one of the questions that comes up then is, so we had the iPad at 2010. We had the iPad Pro at 2016. You've at this point had well over a decade of success on the Apple platform.
Right.
What, thinking to yourself, okay, we've got a chance to move more into the realm of full comic production, and then talking about the various aspects of the stylus and what drove you to the iPad Pro. It's not as if there weren't drawing apps on the original iPad.
Right.
Paper by 53 and other groups like that. So what was it? What was it that basically that caused you to not introduce the application sooner? And what also during that time period, Samsung, of course, had several different iterations of Galaxy tabs coming out. What caused you not to look at other platforms during that 6-year period between the iPad launch and the iPad Pro to say, hey, we can, let's test our product out maybe on another platform or this, that, and the other. What I think a lot of people from a business standpoint are curious as to what went into your thinking with that.
So our core competency was not drawing. So, it was photos, filtering, lettering stuff, things like that. So we were trying to think about ways to, appeal. The iOS world is the mobile app world is a very confusing place.
Very fair.
And it is very, very difficult to make apps that that succeed in that space. And you can spend a lot of money and a lot of time building an app, and it just goes thunk when it hits the market. For sometimes good reasons, in that the app just wasn't a great app, or for very sad reasons, which is just nobody ever heard about it. It's so difficult to get your app visible on the App Store, or into just the general mindset of the world. The branding, the marketing is very, very difficult, and people's attentions are very, very scattered now. We have things coming in from all sides, clamoring for your attention, and so breaking through that is difficult. So anyway, so we were trying. We have a little app called Comic Touch, which was, I think, way ahead of its time. I mean, when you see all these frames and things like that Snapchat and Instagram and Apple's, it's like we had that app. And we had that app in 2013 and 2014. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. And we tried to, and it was free. And then we had in-app purchases for more, comic. And these were like comic book cover type things, so sort of a fun thing. You buy a filter and put yourself on a cover and, maybe change the titling. Sort of comic book covers, magazine covers, kind of that sort of stuff. Anyway, fun little app. But trying to break through, it's like it was tough. It was popular, but did it make any money? Not really. So we attempted that, and that's when so all these things just take time. And of course, Apple is releasing update after update to OS 10, or Mac OS now. And so you're constantly like, oh, I've got to, add these new features to make Apple happy, and hopefully they'll feature. Because actually, what
I was getting ready to say, right? That's the key right there.
Well, yeah. Well, you end up getting onto this crazy train of trying to excite Apple's App Store editorial team into choosing your app to be featured, either when there's a new OS comes out and they're like, oh, and these are the cool new app, cool apps that have been updated to support whatever crazy new feature we've put in as a core feature of OS 10, or on iOS as well. So right now, if you have augmented reality stuff, you've got a great chance of being featured on the App Store. If you don't, well, sorry, you're going to be nowhere near the front page of our app store because we're all about the augmented reality now. So, so you end up, and you start to get a little burnt out by that, because you try it, and if it doesn't pay off, if you do not end up on the front page of the app store, you're like, we did all this work,
right?
And it's kind of, it's exasperating. It's exasperating, and yeah. So anyway.
So no. I appreciate you saying. I appreciate it for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't know history of Comic Touch. I was always, I never downloaded the app. I didn't know what that product was. I saw it obviously on your website.
Yep.
But I wasn't quite sure what that was. So I'm really glad you explained it.
Yeah, just to fill in a little bit more. So we, the iPhone came out, and then the iPhone App Store was made available.
Right.
And so we were like, well, it's a little phone. It's got this tiny little, and the original iPhone screen was tiny.
Of course.
There was really nothing. You could dial. You had enough room for the buttons to dial the phone. That was about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, there's no way we're going to put the full Comic Life app onto an iPhone because that's just crazy. I mean,
the original iPhone, folks. There you go. Yeah, one of the originals. See how small that small screen is.
And it's just that was crazy. So we did this more touch. Basically it was Comic Touch. It was a touch-based version of the app that let you do a little bit of photo filtering, balloons, captions, blah blah blah, and basically a single panel was really all we were thinking. It's like, let's make a single panel thing and share that image. It's all part of the image sharing thing. Did we know that we were supposed to build an entire sharing platform to go with it? No. So we could have done the Instagram thing if we had.
Well, fair enough. That right. You and I've talked about this. That aspect is a crucial aspect of art. But but to be fair, Comic Life came out. Comic Touch came out when?
I guess
2013,
2012, the original version. Then we did a much more sexy, version 2, which had this more cool comic book cover approach, where you actually take a picture through the cover, so you can really frame it.
Right.
You have the lettering and all that sort of stuff all around, and then you're actually seeing a live video feed, just like you now see with the Instagrams and Snapchats or whatever. Where you're actually looking through the thing and getting it all framed nicely before you take the picture.
The reason I ask is that because DeviantArt, DeviantArt was that was the predominant app at that point, and it wasn't even that. I mean, it was a desktop website. They came out with an app, and all it really was a viewer.
Right.
So I mean, so the reason why, just to kind of come back for a second, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, and I want all young viewers to see this, is that you and I similarities. Now, obviously, we're old and we have a viewpoint about technology and all those things that not a lot of younger people are into. But I think that the thing that always excites me in our conversations, certainly from my standpoint about the stuff that we, that I want to try to do with Comic Draw and with work with Plasq and so forth, and is that I see so many similarities with what a lot of young creators go through. And so let's just let's recap this, and I'm trying to frame this for a lot of our younger viewers. You produce a product, you spend a lot of time working on it, kind of in the ether, right? Like there's no one's around giving you instant.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, this isolation, which is the hallmark of creativity. I talk about this all the time. Where for you guys who are watching this, if you've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, guys, count yourself in the very, very lucky percentile of comic creators, because that's not the reality. The reality is that a lot of these guys and girls are doing this stuff by themselves, and even if they're in a relationship, the reason why it's a powerful thing, I always champion it with our creators. I'm like, please, you with your girlfriend or boyfriend, please put Saturday in a proper perspective. It's precisely because so much of the work that's done, as you just hear from Robert, and as you've heard from me on many videos, is so here. It has nothing to do with this. Right. I've got a dog running around here right now. I can hear kids outside my home office window, and I've got to clean my home office and stuff. But none of this factors when I'm trying to get work done. It's all here, and if this is not in a healthy space, it's tough. And so knowing that it's all here and having a support system is crucial. But now you're listening to Robert. This is a grown man with a technology company who's talking about the difficulties of producing content. The second thing I think that's so important for you guys to understand and see the connection here is the fact that Robert's had success. And yet in producing an app like Comic Touch, which was ahead of its time, and again, the era he was going in was wide open. DeviantArt was the #1 leader for getting your content out there. If you were an artist, and most of you guys probably didn't have DeviantArt accounts now, but DeviantArt was it. But they didn't have a web portal, or they didn't have an app. I remember when they came out with their app. And when they did come out with an app, it was simply a viewer. That's all it was. It was a viewer that pushed you to the website. It could have basically been a web HTML sort of app, because that's all it really was. But that being said, though, as Robert indicated, with Comic Touch, he's got the right idea. He's right on time. And yet at the end of the day, you're in a sea of other applications and the ability to get noticed. So how many of you guys are creating content right now? I'm not going to name our competitors. Could, but I'm not. But how many of you guys are on those websites right now? And you're like, man, I'm doing all this work. You know, I'm blowing off my friends, blowing off my loved ones. I'm in this comic, I'm producing it, I'm doing this stuff, I'm uploading on this website, and you know, I know it's good stuff. I think it's good stuff. I get, you know, the occasional note that tells me it's good, but no one really looks at my stuff. And yet, you know, Kitty Cat is the #1 thing on this website, and they're always pushing it on their homepage. And that is a struggle with creativity. That's a struggle with all this stuff, and that's what makes the struggle of trying to create content and try to alleviate some of the risks and some of the frustrations is, you know, what I'm all about and what Saturday M's all about. And so Comic Draw and what Robert's doing helps alleviate some of the stress, because at least you're taking out of your hand, worrying about the lettering and worrying about the art. You've got a chance to produce really professional stuff. With all that being said, I want to now go back to Robert and say, Robert, so what is your read on how difficult this stuff is of being seen and noticed? Because it's in your context, and obviously we're working to try to change that by talking about Comic Draw all the time. But in your context, you know, right now it sounds like it's just Apple is really the one who can change everything. Is that the case?
So there's been a sort of a confluence of factors. You know, if we're just talking, you know, computer software marketing, the decline of the software magazine market, you know, the enthusiasts market. I mean, there still seem to be a ton of computer magazines, but they seem very focused on like getting the most out of your iPad. And what's weird, I don't know where these things come from. I don't know, you know, it's like you would think that they would be sending us emails to say, hey, you know, we're producing a new iPad magazine. Do you want to advertise in it? It's like, no. Well, you know, or maybe it was like, you know, art production with an iPad or something like that, you know, sort of creative iPad apps or something. I don't know, you know, sure, you know, maybe. But you know, there's been this, you know, shrinkage in the market for you know, enthusiast magazines. So places to obviously market to people who are interested in our kind of stuff has gone away. And now it's all, you know, the App Store, and trying to play that game of getting Apple to put you on the front page, because Apple's, I mean, I hate to say bad things about them, but they're not really serving their you know, the software developers well with the App Store, in my opinion. So that's a separate. I mean, that's
yeah. I mean, yeah.
But I think
trying. You know, but I know what you're getting at. Yeah, they've got that App Store editorial section. Right,
but you know, it's crazy. You know, they are. I mean, as far as my interests are concerned, they are. You know, for apps, they are like the Facebook of, you know. Yeah. Because they know exactly which apps I am using. Yeah. 99% of the time, you know, like I have a few apps that I use all the time.
Right, same here.
And do I get little pokes from them saying, "Hey, you love these kinds of apps. This new app's just come out, and I think you'll really love it. You know, we think you'll really love it. It's like it's doing what these two apps do separately, and maybe it's doing them together or something, you know, like that." But no, they don't.
No.
They don't proactively suggest things to me. I have to go looking for them.
Right.
And their search feature is abominable. You know, you have to be lucky to find the app that you're searching for, even if you search for it by name.
You know, so there's two things I noticed with that. There's two things I noticed with that. And let me just say for the record, Apple, if you're watching this, you know, I like Robert, but please don't punish me. and trust me, Robert. Robert, here's the funny part. This is why, yeah, folks, you guys watching this, Robert and I get along really, really well. Yes, we're both old. We're like a Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson back in the day. But Robert, look, that went.
Yes, exactly.
No one's catching that. Really, everyone's like, "What the hell?" But
it's more the Kanye West and what's that British guy with the glasses that, you know, has like every single song is a #1 hit, and this shows, huh?
Elton John?
No. We're talking contemporary today, Fred. Not, you know, hundreds of years ago.
Hell, Kanye's old too, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
a new British guy with the glasses, and he's kind of an ugly dude. But,
you're not talking that red-haired guy.
Yeah. See, I'm sort of, you know, with that, you know, if we're gonna make it more contemporary, you're like, you know, Kanye, and I'm like,
I know you're talking about
Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran. There you go.
He is.
So yeah. Let's just, you know, bring it up to speed with, you know, today's vernacular here.
Fair enough. Let me before I lose my point. Let me get back to my point.
What was your point?
I would tell you, Kanye, but.
Well, you're Kanye.
You're Kanye. You think I'm Kanye in a situation? You're crazy. You're Kanye. I'll be Ed Sheeran, but trying to take on Apple. But look, no, I think, you know, it's funny when you said that, you know, so we were just at a show, obviously, you know this, in Portland for Wizard World, and actually I saw someone ask a question about Philadelphia, and folks, we'll talk about that hopefully Monday. We'll let you know, but you know, I like to read magazines. I buy a lot of magazines because that's just my thing. And so I went to Barnes and Nobles. It was near the hotel we were at, and I was looking for some magazines to buy. And you know, I don't know if you've bought magazines in a while, but you're so right about how when you look at magazines now in the tech sector, how they have regressed, and now it's like they're not interested in hardcore conversations about tech and the intersection of tech, and I hate to say this, well, it may not be necessarily fair, but I mean, like, you know, even Fast Company and Wired to some degree kind of have wavered into more kind of mainstream talk, and then the mags you're talking about, they're completely consumer, like they have nothing to do with the power user or the business, the semi pro user, and so yeah, that's interesting. I think you're right about that, and I think, and then to your point. I think one of the thing that you're describing with Apple's search algorithms, it does seem to be, it's the same idea. So, for example, the other day, you know, I got this Apple Watch my sister got for me, and the other day I was looking at YouTube videos, and I found a YouTube video on, you know, cool apps for your Apple Watch, and I downloaded a few of them. In fact, one of them is brilliant because it allows me to check when I'm walking my dog out running if it's raining. Now, I say all this to say that, like, you know, to your point, Apple has never told me about this app. Apple has never told me about apps that I use and apps that I would like to use. I have to find them from other resources, and that is extraordinary. That we're in this moment now that doesn't happen. And so what do you think? So again, you know, just kind of pulling it back with some of our watchers of this who are creating their own comments and stuff. So what do you think appears to be, or what do you think the prescription is to try to kind of fix some of these things about getting this visibility going?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, Apple, you know, let's compare Apple to Amazon. Amazon is always telling me about new stuff that I could well be interested in, and sometimes I am, and it's great. It's like I had to do nothing, and oh, this looks really cool, I'm going to get this. They have nailed it. And so I think you know, to relate it back to comics production, and I think the world is still a somewhat healthier place because there are these places where you can share things. I mean, maybe the Instagram world has kind of curtailed that a bit and made it less of a community, and that's maybe unfortunate. You know, it's maybe more fragmented now because you go to individual artists, you know, you follow individual artists, and you don't really get a community. Like, you know, going to say the homepage of DeviantArt, you might see, you know, oh, there's the new, you know, cool things of today. And I feel like, you know, that it's again more of that regression in that we've got great one-to-one or one-to-many options, but not the many-to-many that we used to have.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. And we need and this is where, you know, you're doing some great stuff with the March Art Madness and all these things of building communities that allow new faces to get in front of people, because that's what it's all about. You've got to get your stuff in front of people who are going to see it. You know, you can produce whatever you want. You can produce a killer app. You can produce a gorgeous comic. But if people don't see it and don't have a chance to see it,
right,
then you know, it's an exercise in frustration and disappointment and you know, sadness. So
I was how you gonna tidy that up, and I was like, at least you didn't say like something like truly dark, like it's like, you know, it's just, you know, it's game over.
It's game over, but it kind of is game over, because I mean, how many times are you gonna put that investment in?
Well, okay, let's talk about investment.
You know,
Let's talk about investment. I think that's a good point. Let's talk about investment for a second. So with Comic Draw, one of the things that, so, you know, people ask, you know, and I just saw one of these questions pop up actually, but people ask all the time, right? There's this question about, you know, why are we so in love with Comic Draw stuff? And I can tell you guys, it ain't because Robert bought me a Maserati. I can promise you that. Yeah, let me tell this young person you can post chats here. Yes, post your chat here. You know, the reason we're so into it, and this is tied into what Robert just said, is, you know, folks, so look, there is no recipe for success with this stuff. You know, and I share to some degree Robert's exasperation at, you know, what's happening right now, because what we see happening really is twofold. And your generation it's amazing what your generation is going through, because again, if you were born when Robert and I were born, the pathways were so much more difficult, and yet at the same time, you know, they were so much more like uniform. So that meant that you knew exactly where the ladders were, right? They weren't hidden. Right. Now it's so diffused because there's so much stuff in the way, and so there's so much opportunity. You can choose any ladder. It's just you don't know where that ladder is going to take you. It could take you sideways. I mean, it's not, you know, it never take you up. And so with Comic Draw, the thing that really stood out to us was that I think the challenge for me with Saturday M when it comes to young creators is that it's hard to empower new, diverse voices. And this, frankly, is an ode to racism. So those of you who hate, you know, we talking politics, but this is true, is that when you take the ladders of opportunity and you basically say, well, take this and you'll have success, but the history of the things that you're dealing with means that you can't afford that, right? In other words, not everybody can go to college, folks. Not everybody can go to Harvard. You know, so if that's the pathway to success is, well, get good grades and go to Harvard and you'll be set for life. Well, that's not true for everybody. And so, you know, you can extrapolate that in this context, in the sense of like, well, you know, keep practicing every day. Well, if you're struggling, if your parents are struggling, if your parents have not made it in this new digital economy, well, buying paper is really expensive. Buying pens and markers is really expensive.
Well, yeah, Copic markers are not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Copic markers, Prisma markers, and so the point is that, you know, I can't in good faith tell people that, you know, the world is open for new, diverse ideas. If you're a young girl from Pakistan, if you're a young kid from the streets of Venezuela, if you're a young person, you know, in India or in South Africa, like I can't very well empower you to try to succeed in comics if the tools for you to get there are massively overwhelmingly expensive.
And actually, to that point, because you've got content on physical media, you need to get that digital
Yes.
to be able to reach an audience that's not just, you know,
That's
your
right.
friends and family.
That's right.
You've got
Well,
to get
exactly.
it up onto, you know, so you need to scan it or have digital camera take pictures of it. Or,
Let's take the digital camera. And we had a talk last night about that. This guy he was like, I took pictures with my camera. We're like, don't do that. Like, it's like, because it looks like you took a picture with your camera, and I can't publish that. So you know, so that's the problem. And so yeah, I mean, scanners are expensive.
And they never work.
And they never work. Exactly. I've got a scanner here right now, folks. FedEx knows this. I tried FedEx and I yelled at each other last week because they would not print that freaking label. So again, technology is tough. And so when you've got the chance to get, you know, an app like Comic Draw, when you've got a chance to get this app, folks, and you can put everything on here. You can put your paper and your pencils and your inks, and you can do different coloring techniques. If you screw up, you get to restart all over again because it's just, you know, hitting a new page, infinite paper. This is why we are huge fans of what Comic Draw is doing, because they're changing the game for the right reasons to try to get people involved. And you know, real quickly, because we got some questions coming, but Robert, what's the cost of Comic Draw?
It's $10 on the US App Store. Of course, it changes based on currency, but there's also a two-week free trial. So you can just download it for nothing and use all the features and everything for 2 weeks. So you can kick the tires and give it a whirl. But and we really tried to make this app flow the way a comic production works, which is there's a script, and so we have a script editor that you can work on. We have a dedicated sketching area, so you can sketch out your panels, and you can also see if you put the lettering onto your pages after you do the initial panels, you can sketch with the bubbles or balloons, captions, lettering in place so that you can ensure that your panels, the content in your panels are accommodating the text, you know, so you don't have to have this end of the stage, oh, now I'm going to put the lettering on, and oh no, nothing fits, the thing we were talking about earlier, where you then have to like try and either change the text to use fewer words to make it fit in a smaller space, or try and adjust the graphics to, you know, try and make them smaller or move them away or whatever. But this being able to draw with the lettering in place, you know, to finalize your drawing with the lettering in place is you know, kind of a game changer as far as, you know, independent artists working to, you know, with lots of constraints.
We got 3 questions just popped in. Let me I want to hit you with them real quickly.
Okay.
But one thing I do want to throw out real quickly to that point, though, folks, my favorite all-time feature, you guys are watching this, you're saying, well, I'm a writer, I'm not an artist, so how do I get to say this? My favorite feature in this thing is you can import script proprietary format where you can just press the line. So in other words, Bob said, watch out. You can press that, it becomes a speech bubble.
Right. Just drag and drop onto your page. Yeah.
You know, that's awesome. So if you're a writer, you can still get a lot of value out of this product. Again, just $10. Nabosa DeGrek says, and Nabosa, if you're watching this, keep piping these through here, because I try to pull up that chat. I didn't see it, but if you see it, then pipe them over here. You're gonna hate these questions, Robert, but I'm gonna throw them to you. Any plans for putting Comic Draw out for Windows?
I love the new Windows Surface desktop app. I mean, that thing looks gorgeous and super cool. I'm really, really happy that Microsoft has gone back to its core, you know, competencies of being a great software developer and you know, doing some hardware stuff, but not they've gone away from trying to out Apple. Because, you know, we've got a music device, we've got a phone, you know, it's like trying to build this whole ecosystem of apps and hardware and software. They are the software people, you know, so they should be having the best software on iOS, the best software on Android, the best software on Windows. But and so I'm very happy about that. Now, that was a long-winded preamble. We are interested in doing a desktop version of Comic Draw. I mean, we're definitely thinking about that. One of the sort of hurdles that we have is that the app itself is very much built around Apple technologies. So bringing that over now, actually, I mean, what one thing that's nice is our drawing engine is very, it's OpenGL, so it's very compatible with the Windows side. So I won't rule it out, but it's definitely would be something that would happen after a Mac desktop app, just because the ease of getting back to the desktop with this app is so much greater. And we'd have to see from there. But if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I'd have said no way. That Windows 10 thing, what was that? Oh no, Windows 8. Windows 8, wasn't it? That was the crazy one.
Yeah, that was correct. Windows 7 was slightly good, but then they screwed up with the 8.
Yeah, 8 went.
Windows
10 is good. Yeah.
The short answer to that question to Bose is that we're working on Robert. All right, so next up is motion comics like Madefire.
Right.
Do you guys have any plans to produce features like that for Comic Draw?
We don't. It's a very cool technology. I've been really kind of amazed at how, I mean, it's almost like an animated movie. Get a lot of dynamism in those things. So, I know that currently they do it, using Photoshop layers and things like that, and they animate the layers and stuff like that. So, I mean, we do have. It requires an awful lot of planning, I believe. So it's trying to fit it all. I mean, this is one of the challenges we have as software developers, is that it's possible to do anything in an app, and so the trick is to do just the right amount. And keep the focus of the app solid. Don't try to. So something like that. No way. I don't think we would ever put it into the core Comic Draw app. It might be a post-processing type of thing that we could do, where you bring in your finished comic that you have drawn and layered with the intention of doing an animated thing. And one of the key things there is those layers, you need to finish the artwork underneath. So on a panel, you might have a person in front of a background, maybe it's a room or something like that. And, then if you want to animate it, you've got to make sure that room that was behind the person actually has content there, because if you start moving away and you see that there's sort of like sketch lines or whatever. So it's a big, you've got to, the comic has to be produced with the intention of, or you have to basically go back to the artist and say, hey, you've got to kind of finish these layers off so we can animate it. And so it's a big commitment. It's not just a click a couple of buttons and, well, I've now got a motion comic. That's the
no, fair enough. Have you looked at their tools, by the way, the development tools? Because they released.
I haven't, but I should. I'd be very interested to see.
I mean, too. That's what I was getting ready to say. That's a that's a great question, and I never even thought about that. As much as Robert and I've talked, I've never even thought of that. But
yeah, no, it's I mean, and it's a very cool result. I mean, I totally understand why people would be excited about that. That's a very interesting.
Well, they've released their development tools. They did it a couple of years ago, and so that anybody can use it. Right. I think it's free. So, I'm actually curious.
So, that's the other big problem with software development, is that it is very, very hard to compete with free.
Right.
It's like some of these people, we have some competing apps, and some of them are free, and it's very difficult. And these these apps are supported maybe by a publishing house that just wants people to submit content. Maybe they have ads, things like that. We were trying to not clutter up the app with these these other things, but anyway. So that's so if there's a free tool out there that does this, it would be madness for us to try and build an app that competed and actually charge for it.
Well, now again, I don't want to. let me stop and say that I don't know that that's. Right. I remember that they were supposed to release it, and from what I recall,
that's that's kind of a it's a key factor, and relating it back to comic production. I mean, a unique offering. When you're coming up with a comic story, something that stands out from the crowd, is key. Certainly practicing by emulating, favorites and things like that is fine. But when you're actually trying to produce your own content, if you've got to have something, a unique pitch, for the idea, and that makes you stand out, because it's tough. But and that requires doing research. It's like, is my idea actually original, or is it kind of just slightly different from something that is very popular or successful?
Yeah, and they've trust me, they've seen plenty of videos where I've
I'm sure
Dragon Ball involved, right. Stuff like that. Then Nabosa says he's got a question from Ayub M. Noor, who says, so you might know what, because I'm not sure I understand this question, but he says, does Comic Draw have half the text bubble? I don't know what it's called, but the ones that you place on the corner of the panel, because you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we do. So actually, we have an update in beta, which actually has a new panel slicing feature, which is one of the big asks, was a way to just have a page and just draw, slice up the panels on the page. And if people start their comics that way with a slicing, then we actually have real vector panels. And then when you add lettering onto those vector panels, the lettering, the balloons, and the captions, if you enable it, and I think it's enabled by default, they will accommodate the boundaries of the panels so that the text will not go beyond the panel. So you can push a balloon up into the corner of a panel, and the panel boundary will become the edge of the text thing. So it'll lay out correctly with a sharp corner or whatever it is that you're needing. So yes, and it will do it right now, but you have to add those panels in sort of after the fact, because currently the panel design or layout tool is done on the sketching. We have actually a tool where you draw the panels, but these are actually just panel, it's on the bitmap layers, not vector. But so therefore the clipping feature wouldn't work. But with the new version that's coming out, it'll be much easier to get that effect that you're looking for. So watch this space, I guess.
That's pretty interesting. I vaguely know what they're talking about, so that I think I get it. But
okay, it gives part of that professional, layout look. Because balloons often have to be pushed up into the corners and the edges, and then the text has to lay out and respect that. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we're coming towards the end here. I think we got roughly about 10 more minutes, and try not to let these things go on too long. Robert and I will talk all day, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've done that before. But what I want to do is I want to just kind of recap a few things here. Folks can still get Comic Life today as a desktop and or a iOS, meaning iPhone, iPad, and the combination. They can still get that today. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. And
the price for the Comic Life software, which again, folks, this is the kind of original, super success that Plasq had. Right. The desktop price is $30
still on Mac and Windows, and then $5 on iOS on for your mobile device.
And folks, I'll tell you right now, I got it first. I paid the $30 for the Windows. I mean, for Mac. Sorry, for Mac. And I love it. It's great. But then I got it on the iPad. The first year iPad came out, I got it on iPad, and I never looked back. I never looked back. I never used the Mac. I haven't touched the Mac version in years. precisely because $5, I've got it on my desktop. I can, you know, if you've got the digital file of the artwork, I can load it in, import it directly into Comic Life, and I can letter it from there. Right. Export it as a JPEG or a PDF or a PNG. Folks, you're made. You're made. Your comic's done. So Comic Life, if you right now have your own method for producing your comics, whether it's traditional or if you're using a different digital software, one of these, you know, dag-nabbit free products that Robert's talking about, you need to check out Comic Life, because you can get this fidelity of really super professional and super easy speech bubbles and you know, the kablams and all that stuff. You can do all of that right with Comic Life. $5 on iOS for Android, for iPad or iPhone. And that, as of right now, Robert, does not have an Android version. Is that right?
That is correct, though. That is actually something we are working on after not doing it. So, you know, coming back to markets and business and, you know, the business of making money and being able to pay your bills. The Android market is very, very large. There's no two ways about it. But it has, you know, the economics of it are not as good as on the iOS world. And actually, the iOS world, the economics there aren't all that good either, because there's just a very few people right at the one end who are making all the money, and everybody else is hoping to get some crumbs. And on the Android world, there isn't a lot of people making much money there. It definitely seems to lean towards the free, you know, app. So, you know, if it's a big social media app, sure, they'll have an Android app, but you won't find many quality apps that would charge money as Android apps. You know, a classic here would be something like Procreate. You know, it's a very, very successful app on iOS. I doubt they will ever do an Android app. So, because they just don't think they'll make any money. What's changed for us, and what may actually cause them to change their minds too, has been the Chromebook explosion in at least the North American education market. And the new Chromebooks are capable of running Android apps, and we are very, very popular in schools, especially in North America. And so we have large customers that have, you know, historically bought Comic Life for Mac, Windows, or iOS, basically beating down our door saying, "Where's the Android, or where's the Chromebook version?" They don't ask for the Android version; they ask for the Chromebook version. And so we are actually exploring that right now to get an Android version. We are going to design it with the Chromebook interface in mind, but I believe it would probably be not too much work to actually make it work on an Android tablet. So the other thing, and I think maybe things have improved there, is that the Google Play Store is very poorly curated by Google. So there is a lot of clone, or
I was getting ready to say,
you know, it's a bit Wild West on the Google Play Store. And so, I mean, we even find apps which have the Comic Life icon on the Google Play Store.
Dude, I was just on iOS, and you had a comic, an application, looks like a knockoff a little bit. You did a slightly different icon, but it's close.
Yep, I know. So it's even worse.
It's literally just the opposite of your name, but yeah.
Right. But yeah, so this sort of stuff is all a factor in whether we do something or not. I mean, you know, so our fear with the Android market was not only are we probably not going to make any money for a lot of work, there's a good chance that we'll just be, people will be buying rip-offs of the app and not actually ours. So it dilutes the, you know, even further the amount of money, the small amount of money you might make. Now that the education market is interested in that solution, because you know, actually there was a bit of a push for Android tablets in schools, you know, in the early days of, you know, this whole revolution in education computing, getting tablets into the schools. But that dried up very quickly, and even iOS, you know, iPads are, you know, Apple's trying to make it work. It's tough. The schools are kind of a little burnt out on the tablet idea, but the Chromebook, it's, you know, a tablet and a keyboard and everything all in one cheap package. It's an easy sell, at least to the administrators and the tech people. I don't think the teachers are super in love with them, but there you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Well, the teachers in America are fighting for.
Well, that's true, and that's you know, so maybe in the cheap computers might be able to give them a little bit more money in their paycheck. I don't know. Well, probably two different budget items, but anyway.
Well, folks, let me say again, you know, Comic Draw, you know, the application, again, if you're an iPad user, there really is no excuse for you not to use this software. Again, we're talking $9.95, as I've said before, infinite paper, limitless pens and markers, limitless coloring options, tons of fonts to use, speech bubble technology, which is fantastic to be able to create the absolutely best professional looking speech bubbles you can produce. You just can't go wrong with this. It's $9.95. It doesn't iterate beyond that in terms of costing you more money for new pieces of feature.
Clip Studio Paint, you know, is a subscription, so it just came out on the iPad, but you have to pay every month for that. So yeah,
so folks,
and it's a bizarre UI.
If I had a way, folks, to mute Robert's mic, Robert loved to talk about other people on this. I'm not doing a video about Procreate, Adobe Photoshop. Why are you trying to give me? Why are you giving him all that attention? The hell with him.
It's reality.
No, it ain't. Not with us, folks. Y'all know Fred plays the long game. Fred, folks. So we're gonna finish up with Robert here in a minute. Let me just do a quick station break here. Just tell you that if you guys, obviously we've got the Wizard World tour happening. So if you come see us at Wizard World, you can see a lot of this stuff. So if you want to experience Comic Draw directly, you can do it at the show. Jay Oden, creator of Hammer, he produced this amazing print here, folks. Now this print's going to be available on the website today. This is something that we have exclusive at the conventions, but we're going to be doing something for Free Comic Book Day. Avengers Infinity War is out right now. It came out a week early. Free Comic Day weekend next weekend. So in celebration of that, today we're going to have a couple of items on the store. You can purchase them directly on the website, including some con exclusive prints. These are high-end prints, folks. High-end prints. Comes with the subscription. You'll even get a nifty flyer about Comic Draw, so you can learn all about Comic Draw. You can see there, this is a fantastic software with Robert, and you can see here even our own Whyt Manga has used Comic Draw. He's got a 5-part video series, folks, on his channel that you can check out. But you'll get one of these tipped in. You'll also get a coupon that gives you access to which you know many of you guys love. So again, we're going to have all that stuff available. Issue 85 comes out next week, next Saturday. It'll be a free issue, a la Free Comic Book Day. Has tons of content in there, including March Madness, a recap showing you some brand new artwork from all the creators participated in that mega event. So shouts out to Australia, and you'll get to see again original artwork from all these guys in that issue. And Bailey's on his way to getting a brand new iPad courtesy of Comic Draw from Robert here of Plasq. So folks, again, our belief in Comic Draw, our belief in Plasq comes down to the fact that we're big believers in trying to make new opportunities and new diverse voices available in comics. And that means we have to shatter through a lot of the walls that prevent new voices from coming in there. And there's all sorts of things can prevent you, but the biggest thing is cost and an opportunity. When you've got a software like Comic Draw, where you can do all the different things you need to do to produce your comic book, you can't really go wrong with that for $9.95. And I just say for this good iPad, folks, the iPad now is cheaper than it's ever been. Even if you want to get a used iPad, no excuse. Do not let parents, don't let friends, don't let people who are Android lovers tell you something different. When we have the top creators that we do, and you guys know we do, and they talk about how much they love iPad, how much they love using iPad. And the minute, by the way, they try Comic Draw, they're believers. The minute that these guys have all tried Comic Draw, they're like, this, I wish I had the software a few years ago when I was first getting started. And some of them who want to use it today, they're buying iPads literally in the next couple of weeks. So folks, this video is all about Comic Draw because we believe in the software. You owe it to yourself to check it out. You owe it to yourself to find more about it. You can do so at Plasq's website, which is psq.com, and then search for the variety of software that they have. But Comic Draw is the main one you want to check out. Tons of information about it. And again, as Robert said, I don't think Robert should be doing this. Let's get the software free on iPad 2 weeks. I've been telling Robert, don't do that. Make them pay. So that's pretty much what it comes down to, folks. Again, you get this cool little flyer, you get some cool stuff when you buy one of our prints, and it's going to be on the website today. We also started to do advertising. You can advertise on Saturday AM in the magazine. That's going to be happening tonight. So check it out. It's going to leave us here at the last few minutes with Robert. I want to just turn it back to just a few more questions, Robert. Robert, I'm gonna beg you, Robert, because you're older than I am, so I can't tell you what to do. I beg you. Answer the question without others, and for God's sake, do not piss off Apple. Damn it, we could have a chance with Apple. We could have a chance with Apple. Question from Jacqueline Ortiz: does Comic Draw work for older, less expensive iPads?
It does require a certain level of more recent iPads. It doesn't require an iPad Pro, but it does at least require iPads, I think, of at least the vintage of the iPad Air 2, mostly because of the graphics performance. So,
you said one more time. I just didn't look for a second. iPad 2 was cut off.
Yeah, iPad 2 or more recent. iPad Air 2 is what I'm trying to say. iPad Air 2.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be fabulous on the brand new iPad that's pencil compatible. I mean, I'm really excited about that. That's great.
Folks, if you're going to get the software, you want to use the Apple Pencil. I actually didn't bring mine up here in my office. Pencil is amazing. You want to get the Apple Pencil. There's no shortcuts on that one, folks. It's $99. There's no shortcuts there. Even the people I've talked with who are like, well, you can find used ones, I'll usually admit it's hard to find used Apple Pencil. So buy the Apple Pencil, set $100 aside. That being said, iPads, folks, Apple iPad Air, Apple iPad Pro, you can get pretty cheaply as user refurbished models. You can check Best Buy or Newegg.com, tons of places. And then the brand new iPad just was announced, Apple Pencil supportive. It's $299 for some of you who are students, $329 max, folks. Again, the bar past this is a Cintiq. So, and a Cintiq doesn't play movies, doesn't play Crunchyroll, doesn't read manga like Saturday AM, doesn't do any of that stuff. It's just a freaking tablet. So, wake up, get that iPad. Next up, we have Dylan Kiefer. He says, I haven't dug much into Comic Draw yet. Oh, damn it. He's getting a mention of competitor, Robert. Brace yourself. Brace yourself. But I think it's Metabang. You can import a page of art and get the line art separated quickly. Does Comic Draw have that ability?
Yes. So if you've got some artwork that you've scanned in, that you've done, basically you've done the sketching on paper and then you want to do the inking and coloring on the in the app, or maybe you've done the inking on paper and you want to just do the coloring. So you've got this scanned image. What we have is a filter system. So if you just select all the content of the page and then tap on that selection and go to a filter option, you can actually lift out particular colors from the, basically select particular colors and then delete the colors that you don't want. So you can delete the white that came in from the scan very easily, and then you've got your separated ink lines ready to color behind them or whatever. So yeah, it can be done, and it's described in the user guide. But we should do a video on that. That would be helpful for exactly that workflow. That'd be cool.
Folks, we make great videos, folks. So Rob must be talking to us.
Yeah, exactly. Where's Whyt Manga's video on doing that?
Well, we make videos without Whyt Manga. Damn it, I make videos. I use KineMaster. Nabosa asks, "What's your favorite comic artist or comic or graphic novel that you've read recently? Do you have a favorite?"
For me, is he talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I have not read any...
Robert, and tell him that you read comic books. I'll be like, I don't read that crap.
I grew up reading comic books. but I haven't read a graphic novel recently. So I really like Mike Mignola's work. He's a great artist. But, yeah, so I'll go with that.
Mignola is great. I mean, that's. I mean,
but that's a bit old school. But you know,
that's a damn shame that he's old school. Mignola, he's like a 1990s artist. But yeah,
right.
But no, yeah, Mignola he's a master. Yeah, he's great. Okay, well, folks, I think that's probably about it. I don't see any additional questions now. I'm only looking at a few resources, so if you did ask questions, I apologize. Please send them anyway, and we will make sure that we get them answered and have them available on our website from Robert. Folks, we're big fans of this guy, big fans of his company, and big fans of the software that they use. So, again, you're going to see us always talking about it. As long as that relationship's there, we'll be talking about it. So, so make sure you check us out. We have our podcast, Saturday AM Daily. We have more videos coming. You all have asked for more videos, so more videos are coming. You love the March Madness videos, so we will be doing a video where we run through the submissions that came through Summer of Manga. A lot of people have asked about that, so yes, we will do it. We're going to bend to peer pressure. I'll give information about Philly, but I'm pretty confident we'll be there. We'll have all our stuff there. Whyt Manga should be there as well, and we'll have a couple of things about Comic Draw. Best part about this chat is Robert he's a big fan of you guys, big fan of what you guys are doing with Saturday AM, with March Madness. So a number of you are going to have access to Comic Life, the lettering software. And folks, I can't stipulate this enough. If Comic Draw appeals to you, you will really like Comic Life. It fits directly into whatever you're doing currently to create comics, whether it's Metabang or Adobe Photoshop or just drawing it and scanning it. It will support any of those objectives as long as you can export the art, and you're going to produce some of the best speech bubbles that you will see. So with that being said, Clock Striker, by the way, uses it, folks. Clock Striker has always used Plasq speech bubbles. So if you love the way Clock Striker looks and reads, you'll really appreciate that. So with that being said, we will let people know within March Madness that we will have some free offer codes. This will be the gamut, folks. This will be folks who have Windows or Mac or an iPhone or an iPad of any generation. We'll be able to support a handful of you getting the Comic Life. And again, that's courtesy of Robert and Plasq for the support you guys have shown us and shown March Madness. So with that being said, Robert, do you have anything else you want to add to the folks?
I think I'm good, but this is a great opportunity. I appreciate it, Fred. This was a lot of fun, and I hope it was informative and interesting.
Again, well, I want to thank you guys for asking great questions with Robert. Again, you know, it's important for me to do these types of chats because I think that, as you guys know, I've said this before, but you know, folks, you're not going to succeed being a fanboy or a fangirl. If you're going to be a fan of anything, be a fan of the business. And the business of comics is really difficult. And you have people like Robert or just different people that we've worked with, but certainly in the case of Robert, who is coming in from a fresh perspective and looking at the industry from a different vantage point, you can learn a lot about how you can succeed with what you're trying to do. And that's really all we care about. And so, again, for us, Robert's been just a hell of a partner and a great friend. So we are hugely supportive of Plasq. I cannot state again, I hope you guys will simply take some time out of your schedule, go to their website, www.plasq.com, and investigate it at your heart's content. If you have questions for us, always ask. Whyt Manga did a 5-part exhaustive series on Comic Draw, and he shows you in real time how he's using the application for the first time. So you get to see him literally learning the app. It's worth taking some time out and checking out the videos of Whyt Manga. Go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Whyt Manga TV. And last but not least, I'll say again, folks, tonight, close to midnight, you're going to see our store upgrade. We're going to have a ton of new things there. And some of those things will be brand new con exclusive prints, which you won't see again until we get to convention. It'll come with some flyers and things of Comic Draw, some postcards for Saturday AM, and a free subscription voucher. And then we're also going to give you the ability to buy ads. So you can appear in the magazine, and all that stuff's going to be available later this evening. So we're really, really stoked about that. We hope you guys will take advantage of that. And again, thank you so much for supporting Saturday AM. Thank you again, Robert, for taking time out. Really appreciate it. And that's going to be it, folks. We will be back this weekend. We'll do a review show where we run through some of our manga submissions. So if you are interested in submitting your comics to Saturday AM, now is the time. Check out Summer of Manga. It's our next big event as we go into all the Saturday AM craziness we got planned this year. So thanks, everybody. Robert, hang tight. I'll stop the broadcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks.